Hi everyone! Today we're going to have a little chat about sites that contain doorways to other lands, such as standing stones, stargates, and the like, and the possibility that the gods actually use these to travel to Earth, rather than the crackpot theories about spaceships and aliens. We're all familiar with the ancient alien theories, especially those that posit that the gods were actually aliens from outer space. We're also all familiar with the various scientific explanations for why that's not true. There's no physical evidence that there were any gods in the first place, or that anyone other than intelligent life, other than the genus Homo, existed on this planet at any time, except, maybe the dolphins, but we're not 100% sure on how smart they might be yet. But think about it. There are so many stories about the gods and how they may have come from their magical places where they lived. There are even a few stories about how man gets there, or almost gets there, and pays the consequences. Think places like Olympus and Valhalla, like Egypt's land of the dead, like Asgard. There are plenty of stories about these supposedly mythical places. Tir na Nog was one of the lands of the gods and fairies in Celtic lore, and it was possible to get there if you knew the way, or had a little help. There's a story about O'Shane, the son of Finn of the Fianna, or Finn MacCool, a hero of Irish myth and legend. He went to Tir na Nog and lived there for a time with the daughter of the land's king. But when he returned to Earth for a visit, he was never able to return to Tir na Nog afterward, and he discovered that he was 300 years out of his time. Supposedly he related the truth of his tale to St. Patrick before dying of advanced old age. Everyone talks all the time about the gods being aliens, but what if they weren't? What if places we hear about in myths are actually real, parallel worlds that you can access through sacred sites like Stonehenge and hidden passages in the Great Pyramid? What if the riddle of the Sphinx is actually how to access the Egyptian land of the dead? What if the ruins of the Parthenon actually had the pathway to Olympus? One of the biggest pieces of evidence that is held up by mainstream scientific community is that there is no physical evidence for the existence of alien visitation on Earth at any point in its history, despite some interpretations of the artifacts that could suggest that there were, in fact, aliens out there flying around and coming to Earth. There's also no physical remains of the aliens themselves, despite a few strangely shaped skeletons found here and there, and DNA analysis that has shown them not to be anything other than what was already on Earth in the first place. What I would suggest as a counterpoint, though, is that the visitors and gods that legends speak of weren't actually aliens. They were more highly advanced, powerful humans from various parallel dimensions. Why else would we have so many stories that parallel each other? And why else would we find artifacts all around the world that seem to be oddly similar? Now, our myths and legends were inspired by these people's actions and their technology. After all, how else do you explain places like Atlantis, devices like the mechanism of Antikythera, and tales of mysterious Avalon? Of course it had to be humans, anatomically modern humans, who in flesh and bone and in the archaeological record, should they have chance to die here, they would look exactly like our ancestors, though perhaps a touch taller, a touch healthier than our ancestors might have appeared. But all of these individuals that feature in all of these myths and legends, what if they just came from a parallel dimension and they were actually human, just like us? So that begs the question, why did they stop coming? Perhaps it simply became too dangerous, or perhaps considering that many of what I would propose are their gateways to come here are actually now believed by modern science to have strong links to astronomical calendars and events. Something happened to break in the pathways. Maybe there was some kind of shift in the Earth's orbit or in the tilt of the axis that cut off their path. Maybe the ability to come was somehow linked to the stars, and a supernova cut off the path. It's a plausible theory when one considers that the Antikythera mechanism was an aid to track and calculate astronomical phenomena, and many civilizations such as the Maya and the ancient Celts seem to have a very advanced astronomical knowledge. Perhaps certain conditions were needed to make the trip. Maybe the dimensional doorways were powered by something that's no longer there. Of course, a great deal more research is necessary before we can definitively prove that the gods were not, in fact, aliens, but instead were human travelers from parallel dimensions. But wouldn't it be amazing to sort out all of that, and find a way to reactivate these mechanisms that they did use to travel and to go through and say hello to our old friends would be an amazing experience, wouldn't it? To suddenly stand face to face with your gods thousands of years after the last time they saw you or this place that perhaps in some ways they called home themselves. I think it's a fascinating possibility.